Namaskar, Jai Shri Krishna. Enlightening text 22, text 23 and text 24-25 of chapter 18. Maharaj Pariksit cursed by Brahman boy of first adulteration of Srimad Bhagavatam. Text 22. Yatranu raktah sahasaiva dhira vyapohaya dehadishu sangamudam vrajanti tataparamaham syamantyam yasmin nahim sopashamah swadharmah. Self-controlled persons who are attached to the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna can all of a sudden give up the world of material attachment, including the gross body and subtle mind, and go away to attain the highest perfection of the renounced order of life, by which non-violence and renunciation are consequential. Only the self-controlled can gradually be attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Self-controlled means not indulging in sense enjoyment more than is necessary. And those who are not self-controlled are given over to sense enjoyment. Dry philosophical speculation is a subtle sense enjoyment of the mind. Sense enjoyment leads one to the path of darkness. Those who are self-controlled can make progress on the path of liberation from the conditional life of material existence. The Vedas therefore enjoin that one should not go on to path of darkness but should make a progressive march towards the path of light or liberation. Self-control is actually achieved not by artificially stopping the senses from sense enjoyment, but by becoming factually attached to the Supreme Lord by engaging one's unalloyed senses in the transcendental service of the Lord. The senses cannot be forcibly curbed, but they can be given proper engagement. Purified senses, therefore, are always engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord. This perfectional stage of sense engagement is called Bhakti Yoga. So those who are attached to the means of Bhakti Yoga are factually self-controlled and can all of a sudden give up their homely or bodily attachment for the service of the Lord. This is called the Paramhansa stage. Hansas or swans accept only milk out of a mixture of milk and water. Similarly, those who accept the service of the Lord instead of Maya's service are called the Paramhansas. They are naturally qualified with all the good attributes, namely the pridelessness, freedom from vanity, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, respectability, worship, devotion and sincerity. All these godly qualities exist in the devotee of the Lord spontaneously. Such Paramhansas who are completely given up to the service of the Lord are very rare. They are very rare even amongst the liberated souls. Real non-violence means freedom from envy. In this world, everyone is envious of his fellow being. But a perfect Paramahansa being completely given up to the service of the Lord is perfectly non-envious. He loves every living being in relation with the Supreme Lord. Real renunciation means perfect dependence on God. Every living being is dependent on someone else because he is so made. Actually, everyone is dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Lord, but when one forgets his relationship with the Lord, he becomes dependent on the conditions of material nature. Renunciation means renouncing one's dependence on the conditions of material nature and thus becomes completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. Real independence means complete faith in the mercy of the Lord without dependence on the conditions of matter. This Paramhansa stage is the highest perfectional stage in Bhakti Yoga, the process of devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Text 23. Aham hi prushto aryamano bhavadabhi rachaksha atmavagamo atra yavan nabhah patantyat masamama patat trinas tatha samama vishnugatim vipaschitah. O rishis who are as powerfully pure as the sun, I shall try to describe to you the transcendental pastimes of Vishnu as far as my knowledge is concerned. As the birds fly in the sky as far as their capacity allows, so do the learned devotees describe the Lord as far as their realization allows. The Supreme Absolute Truth is unlimited. No living being can know about the unlimited by his limited capacity. The Lord is impersonal, personal and localized. By his impersonal feature, he is all-pervading Brahma. By his localized feature, he is present in everyone's heart as the Supreme Soul, and by his ultimate personal feature, he is the object of transcendental loving service by his fortunate associates, the pure devotees. The pastimes of the Lord in different features can only be estimately known by the great learned devotees. Srila Suta Goswami therefore has rightly taken this position in describing the pastimes of the Lord as far as he was realized. Factually, only the Lord himself can describe himself, and his learned devotee also can describe him as far as the Lord gives him the power of description. Text 24-25. Ekada dhanurudyamya vicharan mrugayam vane mruga nanu gatah shrantah shudhitas trushito bhrusham jalashayam chakshanah pravivesh tama shramam dadarsha munimasinam shantam militalo-chanam. Once upon a time, Maharaj Pariksit, while engaged in hunting in the forest with bow and arrows, became extremely fatigued, hungry and thirsty while following the stags. While searching for a reservoir of water, he entered the hermitage of the well-known Shamika Rishi and saw the sage sitting silently with closed eyes. The Supreme Lord is so kind to his pure devotees that in proper time he calls such devotees up to him and thus creates an auspicious circumstance for the devotee. Maharaj Pariksit was a pure devotee of the Lord, and there was no reason for him to become extremely fatigued, hungry and thirsty, because the devotee of the Lord never becomes perturbed by such bodily demands. But by the desire of the Lord, even such a devotee can become apparently fatigued, hungry and thirsty just to create a situation favorable for his renunciation of worldly activities. One has to give up all attachment for worldly affairs before one is able to go back to Godhead, and thus when a devotee is too much absorbed in worldly affairs, the Lord creates a situation to cause indifference. The Supreme Lord never forgets his pure devotee even though he may be engaged in worldly affairs. Sometimes he creates an awkward situation and the devotee becomes obliged to renounce all worldly affairs. The devotee understands by the signal of the Lord, but others take it to be unfavorable and frustrating. Maharaj Pariksit was to become the medium for the revelation of Srimad Bhagavatam, while Lord Shri Krishna as his grandfather Arjun was the medium for the Bhagavad Gita. Had Arjun not been taken up with an illusion of family affection by the will of the Lord, the Bhagavad Gita would not have been spoken by the Lord himself for the good of all concerned. Similarly, had Maharaj Pariksit not been fatigued, thirsty and hungry at this time, Srimad Bhagavatam would not have been spoken by Srila Shukdev Goswami, the prime authority of Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is a prelude to the circumstances under which Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken for the benefit of all concerned. The prelude therefore begins with the words, once upon a time. Hare Krishna.